my dating life is going right now, I feel like I'm gonna be single for a long time. Like a long time. I literally just cannot stand. I cannot stand these vanilla ass men. You're boring. You don't intrigue me. And at this point, I'm like losing faith in all men. I just feel like they all want one thing. And if that's what you want, I'm the wrong bitch. Go somewhere else. I cannot tell another man what I like to do on my free time. I can't do it. And I don't give my attention to anybody. And when I'm finally like, oh, like, he's cute. Like, let me talk to him. You're boring. You're boring. You suck.
How do you think men feel when they're typically the ones pulling all of the weight, and in response, they get one-worded responses, 2-hour gaps in conversation, and 0 initiation? The bottom line is that a lot of men today feel like it is pulling teeth to get to know a woman. So if you as a woman don't even want to talk about your hobbies, yet you're telling men that they're too vanilla, they're boring. I'm sorry, is he the only one that's supposed to bring joy and excitement to your life? But
all right, guys, welcome back to Male Choices. If you're here for the real talk, you're in the right place. Before we dive into it, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss out on the truth. It's time for men to stop putting up with the ridiculous nonsense we've been fed by society and stand up for ourselves. Let's get into it. All right, let's get something clear. A lot of women walk around with this inflated sense of entitlement, believing they're something extraordinary, like they're walking on water or something. They've been told all their lives that they're queens, goddesses, that every man should bow down and worship them. But here's the truth most of you don't want to hear: you are not special. That's right, you're not. You think most men aren't special, but you're out here believing you're the exception. Nah. Most men don't see you that way, and the sooner you realize that, the better off you'll be. Stop fooling yourself with these absurdly high standards, thinking some prince on a white horse is going to come sweep you off your feet. The reality is, if you keep holding out for this perfect man who ticks every single one of your boxes, you're going to be waiting a long time. You need to lower your standards. No, that's not even it. You need to realign them with reality. You want a guy who's hardworking, loyal, looks good, has money, makes you feel special 24/7. Guess what? Most guys are not going to give you all that, and frankly, most men don't want to deal with a diva, a princess, or someone who's only focused on themselves. Let's be real, we all have flaws. You've got them, he's got them. No relationship is going to be 100% perfect. And if you're out here looking for a man who's flawless, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. If you manage to find a guy who gives you 64%, that's right, not even close to perfect, but enough to meet your needs more than halfway, you should be grateful. That's a win. Most of you don't realize how lucky you are when you've got something decent going, so stop living in this fantasy world where you deserve everything without giving anything in return. You want a high-value man? You need to bring something to the table too. Adjust your expectations, because the longer you wait for the perfect man, the more likely you are to end up alone. You get 64% of what you want? That's called hitting the jackpot in the real world. Appreciate it.
Okay, PSA to all men. Just because a girl is wearing a low-cut shirt or a tight top or a fitted outfit doesn't give you permission to just stare at their chest. It makes us so uncomfortable, and if you guys could please stop doing it, it would be amazing. Men will always be like, oh, we don't like being called creeps, or we're so scared to be called creeps, but then you guys make it so difficult for the female species to exist or even wear anything.
okay, in case you guys didn't hear a word that lady just said, she said don't be creeps, don't stare at her. No matter what she's wearing, no matter what any other woman is wearing, don't stare. I mean, even if she has like a flamingo on her head, you better not stare. Even though it's like totally human, you know, when somebody is just being totally obvious and flaunting, you know, maybe they're even like dancing with that flamingo. Yeah, you better not look unless you're attractive in her eyes. So like, okay, so it gets a little muddied, I know. So if you're attractive, so, you know, you gotta look at the scale. So if you're maybe an 8 or 9 or 10, she probably, you know, she's a 10 up there. So like, you might really need to be a 10. Don't look at her unless you're that.
Let's be honest here. The reality is, women have already spent their prime physical years chasing after the chads and jocks. Back in the day, at least married guys could look back and say, I got a piece of the good stuff during her best years. But now, what do most guys end up with? The leftovers. You're getting the sag, the baggage, and the drag years. The prime time's long gone, and all that's left is the decline. This is the hard truth no one wants to say out loud, but men need to recognize it. Women will give their best years to the bad boys, and when those years are behind them, they come looking for a nice guy to settle down with. So, if you think you're getting the best version of her, you better think again. I went on a couple of dates with a girl who met me at Home Depot. It was a waste of my time for the most part. She was very self-absorbed. I'm not sure if anyone has told her she'd ever done anything wrong. I just blocked her, because there's no chance I would be happy being around someone who lies to themselves to protect their own ego. She was the first person I heard the term situationship from while talking about her sister. I never heard the word before, but it's obvious that she would waste as much of my time as I was willing to give. I tried to bring up some of the things I saw that would improve her quality of life if she implemented them, but of course thought I was being a maikais to bring up accountability. Ultimately, she framed me as the bad guy when I stopped responding. I'm happy I only invested a couple of months of my life.
I don't care if I am 32.
The man cares.
Oh,
They're 32.
so bad. So many guys
You don't want a man,
want
so
to stay with me.
No, they want to fuck you.
Maybe, maybe,
Okay, and they don't want to do anything
maybe,
else.
maybe,
Like, that's a problem.
maybe.
They just want to use you for sex and nothing else.
I don't need your approval.
Oh, I'm telling you how
I don't need your opinion.
I'm telling you how men think.
Oh shit.
Because here's the thing. I'm a multimillionaire. He's a multimillionaire. All my friends multimillionaires. We all think the same. We don't take girls seriously like you. We have sex with y'all and never tell you the truth. You're never gonna get wiped. That's the truth.
Don't
You're insufferable.
you?
I'm telling you the truth.
You dare respect the woman.
Women like you don't get wiped up.
You don't know me.
You're old. You're old and you have bad habits.
In the ring.
She's saying a woman
What do you want? I cry because you
don't
say
have to
I am
cry.
old.
I'm just telling you. The
What
man
do
that
you
you want
want?
doesn't want you.
You want to cry because you say I am
I'm not
old.
crying. You are
So
old.
what?
You are old.
I feel very good.
It doesn't matter how you feel.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you're old.
It's almost laughable how these girls are always living the high life. Every weekend, they're in a club, sometimes on a yacht in Europe, flaunting their expensive bags and luxurious lifestyles. They've been to all the top destinations around the world, have endless photos in Miami's finest spots, but somehow can't seem to land a husband. It's like, isn't she supposed to have men throwing themselves at her feet? Well, here's the kicker. She's past 30, and her DMs are drying up. She's no longer in the demand she once was. The truth is, she's been used and discarded, and now she's just another leftover. She's out here seeking a serious man, preferably rich, like the guys who dumped her, but this time she wants commitment. But as she creeps closer to 35, her standards drop fast. At this point, any man who'll take what's left of her will do. See, women and men both age, but the decline happens at a different pace. Women lose their beauty, youth, and fertility much faster than men. The real question is, what did she spend her prime years chasing? There's nothing wrong with living a wild lifestyle if that's what you want. Being passed around by a series of men, living the high life through fancy hotels, expensive restaurants, supercars, and increasing your body count. But then these same women label themselves as boss babes, like it's some badge of honor. I once heard a 24-year-old girl proudly say she only dates athletes and men in that category. And yeah, she's living the luxury life now. But here's the real question. What does that pattern of living cost her in the end? When the beauty fades, when the attention drops off, when the DMs stop, what then? All that partying, that boss babe mentality, it costs them dearly. By the time they realise it, it's too late, and there's no going back.
So you said this about Me Too. So this is probably 40% of the reason I moved to Romania. In Eastern Europe, none of this garbage flies. You go to the police and say he raped me back in 1988. They'll say, well, you should have done something about it back then.
That one small sentence you've taken was from a 1-hour video where I explained that, of course, rape is disgusting. Of course, everybody should be punished for their crimes regardless of when they happen. But people are not perfect, male and female. And if you give women the opportunity to destroy men's lives without evidence, there's going to be a contingent of women who will do that. I'm trying to make a balanced and nuanced argument in a world where people have no attention span. They're going to take a few seconds, put it online, decide someone's good or bad, not be interested in the longer format video. We live in a world now with...
Over the past few years, law enforcement stats are showing something interesting. More and more American women are being arrested for domestic violence. Now, let me be clear. I'm against violence. Period. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Violence is never the answer. We've got to learn to control ourselves, especially in heated moments. When things get tense, one of you needs to have the strength to walk away. Because if you don't, someone's likely going to end up in jail. And for what? Just because neither of you could cool off? As parents, it's our responsibility to teach our kids that violent behavior doesn't fix anything. When are Americans going to get this through their thick skulls? Our kids learn more from what we do than from what we say. They see our actions, and that's how they'll act when they grow up. So we've all got to step it up and do a better job teaching them the difference between right and wrong. It starts at home. If we don't get it together, how can we expect the next generation to be any better?
Instinctually, women want a man to be a leader. But there's programming in society, typically from feminism, which tells women to go be boss babes and to, you know...
You can be that leader.
Well,
So I think what you have is women still, like, on some, as you said, instinctual level, want a leader, yet it's not clear to me if, granted, and I think men are also failing at this too, in the sense that there's a lot of men that are not up to par, but
Let's cut through all the noise. Here's the truth. Women cannot act the same way men do and expect the same level of respect. They misunderstand the core of why men do what they do. When a man is being tough, it's not just for the sake of being mean. He's doing it for the good of the group or even for the betterment of the individual. It's about creating tangible results, pushing things forward, making sure something gets done. But when women are mean, it's usually about causing pain, aiming for an emotional reaction. That's the fundamental difference. Men operate with a purpose. Women often act out of emotion. Now, let's address this. Everyone, men and women alike, need to understand a basic principle of life. The seller sets the price, but the buyer sets the value. You can walk around putting whatever price tag you want on yourself, thinking you're the best thing that ever happened, but that doesn't mean someone's going to pay that price. Just because you think you're an amazing catch doesn't mean everyone else will agree. One person might think you're top tier, while another might see you as damaged goods and demand a massive discount. I've seen this happen time and again, especially with leftover women. The more they shout about how they aren't damaged and how any man would be lucky to have them, the more it becomes clear they've got unresolved trauma and baggage from the past. Here's something women need to get. When a woman evaluates a man, she looks at his future, his potential. But when men evaluate women, we're looking at their past. That's what sets their value. So, when a man sees a woman in her 40s, unmarried, no kids, no long-term relationships, one of the first thoughts that'll cross his mind is, if she's so amazing, why hasn't anyone locked her down yet? It's like looking at the last apple in the basket. It might look shiny, it might smell good, but if every other apple has been picked and this one's still there, you can't help but wonder what's wrong with it. There's probably something lurking under the surface, something that'll poison you the moment you take a bite. And let's not forget the narrative that modern society keeps feeding us, especially through this new religion called wokeism. Men are useless. Women don't need men. We're oppressors, apparently. It's the same broken record playing over and over again. But reality paints a different picture. Women who chose their careers and education over settling down early end up as obnoxious, poor dating candidates. They're predictable. They think they can have it all, climb the corporate ladder, date a bunch of guys, and then finally settle down in their mid-30s. But the truth? They overspend, live paycheck to paycheck, and accumulate so much emotional baggage that they can no longer bond in a relationship. By the time they hit their 40s, they're turning to antidepressants, alcohol, cigarettes, trying to cope with the fact that the kind of man they want isn't showing up. Sure, there will always be thirsty men willing to take whatever they can get, but the quality men, the ones they want, don't see value in what's left. And here's something else to think about. The more relationships and children a woman has, the more masculine she becomes. If I had to sum up the mindset of these leftover women, it's this. Ideology has triumphed over biology. They ridicule men, demonize them, and treat them with disdain. But here's the cold hard truth. Women who've had 10 or more intimate partners are almost incapable of forming a real, lasting bond. Research shows that after that many partners, marriage becomes a last-ditch effort, a desperate move. They've got the DNA of several men swimming around inside them. And let's be real, what man wants to deal with that? At the end of the day, a person's upbringing and environment shape them more than they realize. If a woman was raised without a stable mother figure, or even worse, with a toxic, promiscuous one, the damage runs deep. And finding a traditional, grounded woman these days, that's like stumbling upon a relic from a bygone era. They're rare, they exist, but good luck finding one in this modern world of confusion.